Okay, I'm here at the Leipzig Book Fair with Anthony J. Quinn, not the actor, the author, and Stefán Máni, also an author. One is from Ireland, the other is from Iceland, both islands in the north of Germany, and they got new books here in Germany, which are not their newest books, but they're new in Germany, and we are talking a little bit about these books and about writing crime novels. And I think the first question is to you, Anthony. Can you talk a little bit about what's in Frau ohne Ausweg, or the English title is Border Angels? It's the second novel with Inspector Celcius Daly. And I think it's better if you do it and not my bad English.
Yes. Well, this is, as you say, it's the second in the series, Frau ohne Ausweg. It's set along the Northern Irish border. And unlike the first book, this one has more international kind of crime themes. It's about people trafficking, and also about the other crimes that were generated along the Irish border. It really was this kind of a semi-autonomous state where the people who lived there felt no allegiance to either Ireland or to the United Kingdom. So there was a lot of kind of small-scale smuggling. Over the years, that kind of developed into kind of whole-scale kind of criminality. It's one of the few places in Western Europe where the police can't pursue a criminal over the border into the new jurisdiction. During the Troubles, they had to, the police in Northern Ireland had to contact the Ministry of Defence in England, who had to contact the Irish Military of Defence, who then had to contact the Gardaí, the Irish police. So it was really a real loophole for criminals. So this book is kind of a wee bit about that.
I mean, this book is from 2012, and so it's pre-Brexit, and you are telling a story about this borderlands, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and I would say aftermath of the Troubles. Is there, or what have changed since the Brexit? I mean, we know that when you wrote the book, there was no border, and now there is a border again.
Yes, Brexit really put the border under the spotlight again. I mean, I live now with my family about 3 miles from the border. It's where I grew up. When I was younger, it was a lot of military hardware. There was fortified police stations, checkpoints. Then when my kids were small, it basically became invisible. They couldn't see it in the landscape. They only knew about it through the stories that I would tell about the murders that happened around it, from the Troubles and the checkpoints. And then when Brexit happened, it was as if it fell from the sky again. And that has caused a lot of anxiety because people had been working, living around the border. There was a threat of the EU that then, and the leaving the EU, which people in Northern Ireland voted against. People wanted to stay in the EU in Northern Ireland, but the entire vote in the UK carried that. And that has just caused a lot of anxiety, disturbance in people's livelihoods. People would be, go to school over the border or work over the border and live on the other side, and suddenly that was threatened. And there's kind of wider political concerns about the future of Northern Ireland as well. So that kind of really has fomented a lot of anxiety and a lot of tensions in the community that have always been there in the Troubles. So it's kind of dangerous, kind of dark times.
Yeah. Now I would like to switch to Stefan, who got also... It's the same with Anthony. His newest German book isn't his newest book he wrote. Yes. It's from 2009, and it's called in Germany Abgrund. The original title is, I think, below my knowledge.
Hyldýpi.
And can you tell a little bit what's it about?
Yeah, I hope so. It's about a young man named Sölvi, and he is nerdy, innocent type. He considers himself a good guy, but nobody is perfect, of course. And he is this kind of dreamer type. and he's not a tough guy at all. And he is from the countryside. He moves to Reykjavik, gets a job in an office. But then one afternoon, he is returning a videotape to a video rental shop, and then everything goes black. And he wakes up in a hospital, and the police tells him that he was found in a ditch outside the city, naked. And it's a complete mystery. He doesn't remember what happened. And the police officer who is investigating this, his name is Grimson. And this is the first book that Detective Grimson appears. And since then, I have written many books about Detective Grimson. And they found out that that same afternoon, a young woman disappeared, a woman who was working in this video rental shop. And the police think that these cases are related, of course. And so it's a kind of a mystery crime book where Sölvi becomes a suspect and he is investigating himself what could have happened that afternoon. And yes, it's a mystery that connects to his childhood when Sölvi was in a boat accident and almost drowned. And when he was deep in the water, he saw a vision of a blonde girl. And that vision connects to this mysterious disappearance of the young woman in the video shop.
And so your book is in part a crime novel, but in other part it's a little bit like, I would say, a fantasy novel, because this boy is remembering things 10 years ago, and he's saying,
Yes.
I know it, I got a vision 10 years ago, and this vision told me what is happening
Yes,
today.
this is not a pure crime novel. It has more philosophical elements and dreamlike elements, and because Sölvi is different from the usual protagonist in crime novels, because he is, like I said, is this dreamy type, and he hates violence, and he likes books and poetry and so forth. So it's a little bit soft crime novel, but it has criminal elements, and there is a plot and all that. But it's not a hard-boiled criminal novel.
I mean, you now said hardboiled, and then I think I can go to what is my next question. I mean, hardboiled is a crime style, Polar. It's your German editor. The name of it's called Polar Verlag. It is also a distinct tradition of hardboiled noirish crime novels, and that's another word. It's noir. And my question is, do you think that you write polars or noir novels?
Yeah, I don't know about you, Stefan, but I didn't set out to write a hard-boiled noir novel. I haven't read a lot of hard-boiled noir novels either. I just wrote a book about the landscape that I lived in and grew up in. And the crime novel suddenly seemed to me a great way to tell a story about where I was living. The first book that I wrote, I set it around Lough Neagh, which is this kind of really large lake in the centre of Northern Ireland. After about 40,000 words, I realised it was just about mud and rain and the weather and nothing else. So the crime novel kind of saved me, really, because suddenly I had these conventions that were a way to kind of unearth the stories and to look at how truth and justice were kind of dealt with in Northern Ireland. So I kind of killed off the first character in chapter 1. I made the next character the detective, and then these kind of the wonderful crime fiction conventions allowed me to kind of examine the story about Northern Ireland and how the society went down this path of violence, and how kind of interrogate that. So it really answered all those kind of writerly concerns that I had at the time. I don't know about Stefan, how you...
I mean, can you maybe give a definition of what is noir for you?
Well, to me, noir is something where there's a sense of hopelessness and despair, where kind of society is almost turned upside down, and good forces are kind of extinguished because of the overarching powers of evil or whatever. There was a time in the Northern Ireland situation where the whole political setup felt really noir, because suddenly you had these people who, freedom fighters or terrorists, however you call them, were suddenly in power. So there's nothing more noir than that, than somebody who's held a gun suddenly being in charge of education and hospitals and that kind of thing. And that was a big challenge for everybody in Northern Ireland to experience, you know.
Stefan?
When I wrote Abgrund, I wasn't planning on doing a crime series, and until that time I had never written about detectives or anything like that. But that Detective Grimson, he fascinated me, and I fell in love with him, and I decided to write books especially about him and from his point of view. But when I decided to go into this detective polar noir thing, I was thinking, how can I do this a little bit differently from everybody else? Because I didn't want to go and copy paste, you know, Joe Nesbo or someone like that. So what I did was the protagonist, Grimson, he's different from everybody else because he's psychic, and he sees visions, and he has strange connections with the other side. So he's a man of two worlds, and he has he's married. He has a kid, so he's not this usual womanizing, divorced, alcoholic cop. So I'm trying to do something different and to add something new to this genre.
And I mean, Anthony is saying it more or less constantly that the trouble in the situation in Northern Ireland is a huge backdrop, and a huge theme in his books is, I would say, Icelandic society, problems in the Icelandic society.
Yes, but I stay away from politics and things like that. But yes, I'm writing about the Icelandic underground, the criminals, and the dark side of Iceland. But I try to stay away from the big politics. But crime novels and noir are usually involved with society in one way or the other. You are showing the readers sides of the society that they don't know about or want to know more about. So it's always a window to the dark side.
Yes, and I mean, in cozy, it's when the crime is solved, everything is perfect, and we live in a fairy tale. And noirs, it's the opposite. I mean, in the end, maybe the crime is solved, but there is no fairy tale.
Yeah,
maybe there is no redemption.
Yeah, and life goes on.
Yes, mostly, not always, not for every hard-boiled hero. But you both said that you are writing standalone and with a recurring character. Can you maybe explain a little bit when you do one or when you do the other, or what the pros and cons with recurring character, who you write a lot of books?
Yes. You kind of invest a lot of time, don't you, with a familiar character, and it feels easier to take them up. You know, I mean, at the start, I mean, my Detective Celcius Daly, what I knew about him was as much as the reader did, which was practically nothing. He was I inherited him from the kind of the noir genre, but over time you kind of end up pouring yourself into that character. Yeah. Daly keeps hands, and we keep hands as well, and that was one little element of making this character a little bit more distinctive. I mean, he's this kind of very isolated, lonely figure, but I was able to pour in all my troubles with looking after hands. And that kind of informed his experiences there as well. But you do mean it is easier to pick that character up. You've invested in them, but the challenge is to try to make it original and try to do something new with the character. But that is almost like a natural part of the writing process.
Mm-hmm.
As you spend time and you invest with them, you become a bit more different. How much of you is in Grimson?
Grimson has over the years has become like an alter ego to me. He's saying things and doing things that that I'm just thinking or wanting to do. He's more like society today. You cannot say anything. Everybody gets mad at you, and if you talk about certain things, but I let Grimson say them.
Yeah.
He can be more. He has more freedom than me.
Yeah.
And he carries a gun, and he is bigger than me and stronger than me, and he says things that I don't want to say out loud myself. So he's a little bit of an alter ego, but at the same time he is more. He drinks more than me, and he is more depressed than me, and his darker sides are deeper than mine. So he's like exaggeration of character.
There's that catharsis element, I mean, you can pour all the darkness into this character and then go down and be the perfect dad and tell the good night story.
Yeah. And you can solve problems in the books that you make mistakes as a person, and then you read the book and you solve those problems.
Yes, and there is that. It's definitely therapy. I mean, I started writing by Celcius Daly after our fourth child was born, and like the others, they didn't sleep the first year. So Olivia was awake and be sleeping in the middle of the night, and you keep waking up, and you're playing Russian roulette with your sanity, really. But suddenly, this idea of this detective running across this wild, empty bog, chasing this villain with a gun, made me feel a whole lot better in the middle of the night, and helped carry me through those kind of darker hours, And funny enough, a friend, when I'd written the first book, I sent it to a couple of old friends. One of them said, "I can't believe you poured so much of yourself into this character." The other one said, "I can't believe you put so little of yourself into this character." I suppose people project themselves and read into characters as much as they want as well.
And I was also thinking that you maybe talk a little bit further.
Yeah.
So it got me in the moment of guard.
Yeah.
But I think
that was. When you finish, it was interesting. You were saying so he drinks a bit more and is more depressive. He pushes you push him to the edge a bit more.
Yes. I make him do things.
And he has to be unpredictable. He can't be a safe, predictable, normal dad. He has to be a bit more dangerous.
Yes, and always going over the edges.
Over the edge is really important. Yeah. I think that's the cathartic element, and hopefully the reader. I mean, that's the kind of character the reader wants to read about.
Yes,
somebody who is unpredictable to an extent, but still guided by morality. Yet there is that redemption. That there is that kind of those redeeming qualities about the character.
Yes.
Very important.
I mean, now Ivan the Rankin Inspector Wilbur plopped in my mind.
Yes, yeah.
He's also such a kind of character with flaws, and the reader goes with him constantly.
Yeah. You have to want to spend time in that character's company, so that'd be interesting, but still almost like a comfortable old armchair. You want to kind of just sink back. And for me, writing about Daly feels like that. It's like getting into an old armchair. You sit back and you relax into the character.
Grimson has a huge fan base in Iceland, but his fans or readers, they have this love-hate relationship with him because he's always doing something really stupid. Why is he so stupid? But they still love him because in the end he figures, he redeems himself and so forth. So a character has to have dimensions and be flawed and, not a straight up good guy or a straight up bad guy, but a complicated one. Yeah, human.
Yeah, and it's good that they frustrate the reader, and it's funny that the readers come back and place demands. I mean, I mentioned Daly and his black hen. Like, that hen is the only kind of living thing that he has contact with, other than with criminals. But readers will come up to me and say, "Don't you dare kill off the hen."
Yeah.
They don't care about any of the other characters, but the hen has to survive. So that kind of gives me the burden of giving the hen a cameo role in each book, and trying to involve them in the plot. And in Frau und Ausweg, I kind of have this link between the hen that goes off into the wild with Lena, the character, the trafficked woman, and she's kind of in the wild, and Daly has to rescue the hen, but he also has to rescue her. So that's how I got the hen into that book. But it can be challenging.
It's funny, this relationship we have with the readers.
It's problematic. Yeah, but it's the lifeblood, really, as well, and it's their book. They read it.
It is. As soon as we publish it, it's out of our hands. So.
Yes, as soon as there's a price tag on it, it's no longer ours.
Yeah. It's not steal the book, but I think with your last words that you give the books to the readers. We are also in the end of this short interview about your books. I liked all of them, and I'm looking forward to the next German editions of the books.
Great, and thanks to Porter Verlag for all their hard work and translating, and the covers and the design and the publicity. It's fantastic.
I mean, you got all the designs from them.
They're fantastic designs.
Yeah, that's really
atmospheric,
stylish,
moody, sophisticated,
and yes.
Okay.